just believe in the power of healing and restoration. And I know that if we can just come together and speak about the hard things, we can finally begin to heal. So, this is where we heal.
All right, so today we have another episode of This Is Where We Heal, and we have the beautiful and extraordinary Dr. Nay, or you may know her as Nadine Macaluso. You may recognize her from her social media presence, where she talks about escaping toxic and abusive relationships, being that she is someone who herself was notoriously in a situation in that exact same scenario and knows exactly what she's talking about from not only experience, but from education and just being the incredible woman that she is with her wisdom. So Nadine, or Dr. Nay, thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much for that intro. I hope I can live up to it.
Oh, you do more than live up to it. Are you kidding me?
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Seriously, Ashley. So happy.
Well, I was thinking about this morning. Obviously, I know it always comes up, about the movie, about The Wolf of Wall Street. And so those for who are listening, the movie The Wolf of Wall Street is actually about Nadine and her ex-husband, Jordan Belfort. Is that how you say his last name? Belfort.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I dislike the most about the movie is the way that they depict you as kind of like just this little sexy vixen that comes into this millionaire's life. And I'm like, that is not anything like her. I mean, flattering who they casted for you, obviously. But so I want people to know the real story. I want people to know your story. And then I want them to hear what you did with that situation and how you came out on the other side of it.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's a strange thing to, go through a Greek tragedy such as a quintessential trauma bond and then have it made into a movie for the whole world to see.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that is a strange thing. And, listen, I've always been a deep person who's been very interested in education, but you have to remember the movie comes from a book. So my ex wrote the book, The Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh.
Yeah, so he wrote the book while he was in jail.
Oh, okay.
So he wanted to use his time wisely. And so he wrote the book while he was in jail. And so that was bad enough because I had moved after my time with him, which was, full of drugs and greed and abuse and coercion, and it was a very, very traumatic time for me. I had moved to Los Angeles. So I thought here I was like, I started my life over again, took my babies, started a new life. And then, comes this book, which, he sends to me to read. And, after I read 2 chapters, I call him up and I'm like, what the hell is this? Yeah. What happened? And he was like, I did this for us. And I'm like, no, I'm already remarried, living a really nice life. I do not need this. Okay. But, the consummate seller that he is. And so I had my Mad Lucia moment where I cried in bed, for 2 hours because I allowed myself to feel my feelings. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, time to get up. So during that time was when I was going back to school to get my master's. It was the beginning of that. And then he tells me it's going to be in a movie. Right. And so I'd luckily have been in therapy, for my whole entire life. And everybody's like, you could sue. And I just was like, that's just not who I am. I don't want to, I'm not going to take on Martin Scorsese and Paramount. And so I did, which is a big part of my healing journey is I do the footwork and then I surrendered into God.
Yeah. So good.
And I just was like, you know what, Nadine, this is bigger than you. Now, I didn't know it was going to take me to this moment, right? And I offer that to your listeners that when these challenging moments come up, it is a gift sometimes to surrender and just see what emerges.
100%. Because in a weird way, even though that was probably really difficult and frustrating and stressful, it also put the spotlight on you for you to have the opportunity to tell your side of the story too.
Yeah, and there's a funny story to that. So when I didn't let them use my name because it was just out of principle. I was like, I make no money. It's not my creative input, but he was trying to convince me to use my name. He's such a good seller. So he said to me, he probably regrets this, but he said to me, just use your name. You have $100 million campaign to do with whatever you want. So he actually planted that seed. And I was like, no, I'm not going to use it. Now, little did I know I'd get to use the most misogynistic movie known to man and exploit it to help women everywhere.
Right. Yeah. Joke's on you, buddy.
Yes, so it all did work out. But like you say, there are all of these emotions and challenges and stresses that we have to tussle with.
Mm-hmm.
But it all worked out.
It sure did. I'd love to go back to so as you know, my podcast is the foundation of it was about healing from domestic violence and just abuse or even just toxicity, because, it all kind of goes hand in hand, right?
That's right.
And abuse is abuse, and whether it's mental or emotional or it's physical, it all has a effect on you for a really long time, and it's hard to escape from.
Yes.
And so I'd love to go back into your actual story,
Mm-hmm.
like how it started for you, who you were when you met your abuser, and how that changed your life.
Yeah. So I was 22 when I met my ex, my abuser. So I was so young, so naive. I was modeling in New York City and really having the time of my life. Again, it's a struggle to be a young girl coming of age. Of course, we know that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure I, was like, can I make it on my own? Is this something I can do? Because I've been financially supporting myself since I'm 17 at a very young age. But as the movie depicts, I was with my boyfriend at the time, and we went to this party in the Hamptons at this beautiful house on the beach. And it wasn't as big as in the movie, but there is my ex with a bunch of his cronies, all of his yes men around him. And I walk in and I'm like, this is so weird. And I didn't know what was weird, but they were all on Quaaludes. And I didn't know it. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't even know what it was, but it was like more than drunk. And, as the movie shows, one of the men exposed themselves to me. And I felt so much shame, right? Because that's what young girls feel when they're put in these uncomfortable situations. And I remember I was leaning against my boyfriend, and the guy did it like such a coward because my boyfriend's back was to him, of course. And I just looked at him, I said, we got to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
And so we left, but then I guess, Jordan saw me and then just really pursued me. And then I just had a Miller Lite commercial come out, and I was living in Chicago. I went to Chicago to live for a while. So I really didn't see him. Well, no, let me back up. He did actually pay somebody $15,000 to get me to go meet him at a restaurant in the city on Madison Avenue. And so I showed up unbeknownst to myself that it was a setup because I thought I was just going with my girlfriend.
Oh.
Yeah. So the Machiavellianism, the manipulation, it was starting right away.
Yeah. Yeah. And at 22, of course, you're completely blind to that.
I had no idea. And then, I was from Brooklyn. He's from Queens. He's very charming. We got along. But he was married. So I went to Chicago. Right. I was doing my thing modeling. And then about 6 months later, I bumped into him at a great gym in New York City called the Vertical Club. And that's when he told me I'm separated, and I have an apartment in the city. Why don't we go out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That all sounds very familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then we went out, and just like a trauma bond, there was tons of love bombing, but crazy love bombing, said to give me $15,000 in cash, and having his driver show up to my house with a Bulgari watch, and just like these over the top things. Yeah.
At 22 years old, that would have blown me away.
Oh,
I would have been eating it up.
Yeah, I didn't even know what to do with it. When he gave me that cash, I tried to shop, and then I bought my mother's stereo. I was like, there's nothing more I could buy. Because this was a long time ago. This was like 1990.
Oh my
Right? So
God.
that's like $100,000 today.
Yeah.
And so, and we just fell madly in love. Just, oh,
I bet.
and he's super cute. I was 22. He was 28. It wasn't like he was this older man.
Right.
He was my peer. He was super successful. I was like, oh my God, he's a self-made man. He's going to protect me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. 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 I would have fallen for it too.
Oh, it was so easy to fall for it.
Oh yeah. And I'm sure, like, looking back now, you're like, wow, there were so many signs. So many signs.
I mean, no, he's a walking red flag. I mean, it's like marches of like a marching band of flags. But back then, nobody was talking about red flags.
Yeah, true.
Nobody was talking about love bombing. Nobody was talking about trauma bonds. I was actually just believing the Disney fairy tale myth of romantic love that someday my prince is going to come and sweep me off my feet. I was like, here he is.
You're right. And even better than I imagined.
Right. Even better than I imagined. But again, like a quintessential trauma bond, a few months in, the domination and the threats and the intimidation started with, if you don't marry me, I'm not going to date you. If you don't, then he would say to me, if you don't want to have kids, I'm not going to marry you. So the control, the coercion, the pressuring started right away. And I would fight back because I didn't want to get married. I was 23 at that point.
Yeah.
But I was no match for him. And then I would just be like, oh, he just loves me so much.
It's amazing how control can feel like love if you don't know the difference.
That's the best statement I've heard all day. Yeah. It's amazing how control can feel like love if you don't know the difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a part of me inside that knew, because I would fight with him. I don't want to get married.
Yeah.
But then he was so dominating and I was in love,
Yeah. You were in love. Yeah.
So I just was like, okay, off we go. But I do a video about this, my engagement to him, where he takes me to my favorite fast food restaurant in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, called Rolling Roaster. Such good French fries with cheese and roast beef and crazy stuff. And we're outside in his white Ferrari Testarossa, and he has this big 5-carat emerald diamond. And he says to me, and we're about to take the Concorde to Paris the next day, okay? And so he says to me, will you marry me? And I say yes, but inside my gut says, uh-oh.
That. And that's the thing we always ignore.
Oh, I was like, get away. I'm getting that 5-carat diamond. I mean, but it was so amazing that my body knew.
Your body does know. Gosh, I feel like I'm learning that more than ever right now. Like, especially because I feel like once you finally come out of the fog and into the reality of how people are and how they work and what manipulators and toxic men or women will say, how they behave. And you can literally just like see the things for what they are without allowing yourself to put the glasses back on and be like, oh, it's, you suddenly realize your body is signaling you the whole time. You feel it. You always. And when you look back, you can literally, in every scenario where that's ever come up, in any relationship, any dating situation, anytime, even just meeting people, you always get some sort of ping in here. Always.
You do. And I explain that, scientifically, and I'll share it with your audience. We have a vagus nerve, which is the 12th cranial nerve, which comes out of our skull and then through over kind of the front of our body and into our viscera. Oh. And it tells us about danger and safety with people. So that's how we know. So the vagus nerve goes into our viscera. That's why we get that gut reaction, and then it sends it to the brain.
Wow.
So it's like a scientific thing. It's not just like, oh, we get a gut reaction. No, it's called the social engagement system. And it's always letting us know if things are safe or dangerous.
Wow, that's incredible. I've
Yeah.
never heard that before.
Yeah. Yeah. So pay attention to it.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Like, and I think too, even just like anxiety, I feel like is a huge indication. Like, even when you're in a situation with someone that seems absolutely perfect and you're like, they're doing everything right. They're saying everything right. They're amazing on paper. But there's just like, you can't crack the anxiety for some reason. It's
Yeah.
like, no, your body's telling you what you don't know yet.
Yeah, 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 because we're built for survival, right? So these are old evolutionary mechanisms that are inside of us that want us to survive. So my gut was saying, don't do it.
You're right.
But of course I didn't listen. I
Right.
got on the plane, I got on the Concorde, went to the Plaza Athénée in Paris and had a fabulous 2 weeks. But then, then came home and the reality started.
Yeah, then all hell broke loose after that.
And actually, no, that's not true. Even in Paris, there was an incident where we were again fighting about children because now I'm engaged. So
Right.
now he's already doubling down on I have to have children. And I start to argue with him and he rips the phone out of the wall. Yep.
You're like, that seems like a little of an overstretch.
I was like, wow, yeah. And again, and the thing, I didn't grow up with rage and abuse. So I had no reference point for this.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that? And then, what do you do when you're in a trauma? You just want to calm them down, appease them, I became a yes woman.
Yeah. And you tell yourself, well, it's me. I triggered them. I shouldn't have said this. I shouldn't have done that. They would have never acted like that.
Look at me. I'm in the Plaza Athénée, having caviar. What's wrong with me?
Yes. Yes. Why am I acting like this and triggering him in this way?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Having a baby isn't the most, important decision you're ever going to make, right? No, it is. But I rationalized it, and hence we came back, and then of course it escalates. The control, the abuse, his drug addiction, it just kept escalating.
Was that like a gradual thing or did it happen pretty quickly?
It was gradual. I mean, it just got worse and worse and worse. They say it takes 7 years to get to know somebody, and I was married to him for 8. So,
Ooh.
it just got worse and worse. And listen, were there moments of fun? Of course. Were there moments with my friends that were wonderful? Did I make wonderful friendships through that whole Greek tragedy of a life that I lived? And do I have 2 beautiful children from it? Yes.
Yeah.
So, and here I am today talking about it, and it's fine, but I didn't need to go through all that.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to go through all that.
Yeah, that's so true. For the viewers that are listening, what are the signs that you missed that if you could go back, you wish you would have taken notice of?
Yeah, so intensity is not intimacy. That fast and furious, obsessive love bombing, that's a major red flag, even though it feels great.
Mm-hmm.
The domination and intimidation and the control.
What does domination, intimidation, and control look like if you've never seen it before?
Yeah, so it looked like what I explained with the threats.
Okay.
There's a lot of threats. If you don't, then I will. Or, controlling who you're friends with. Or extreme possessiveness and jealousy.
Oh.
I'm not a cheater, and I would get accused of cheating a week after I got married. And I'd be like, I'm not fucking the golf pro. Like,
Right.
I just got married, right? So possessiveness, jealousy, control of friends, control over what you do, mixed in with the intermittent reinforcement. And that's that's one of the conditions of a trauma bond. But then we'd have a huge fight. And then, there'd be a horse in my driveway because I used to love to ride horses. So extreme highs and extreme lows. And then what happens is you start to feel tons of cognitive dissonance and tons of confusion. Is he good or is he bad? Or is he crazy? Is a relationship good or bad? You're constantly oscillating between what is this relationship? And you can never land on an answer because it's always changing.
Ooh, that I feel that here. Because I've experienced that too, where it's like you really truly are. You're kind of like, I don't even have the words to describe it, but you're literally like just split in half. You're torn.
Yes.
Because you love the part of them that is good so much,
That's
you
right.
know, and
That's
yet you hate the part of them that isn't so
That's right.
much.
That's right. Right. And I call those two parts Romeo and Dirty John.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you're in a relationship with two different people because you're having two very different experiences.
Man. And that's what I think too makes it so hard to walk away. Because
So,
you really want to believe that good part of them is who they really are.
yeah. And I say hope is the hook. So every time they're nice, every time they throw you a bone or are generous, kind, and helpful towards you or loving or pseudo loving, because I believe the whole thing's manipulation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then you're like, oh, there's Romeo. There he is.
He is good.
He is.
He does love me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the next day you're walking on eggshells.
100%. I heard this thing the other day. I don't remember who it was, some lady on her platform, but it was really good. And she said, the worst that a person shows you is what you should be paying attention to most. It is the worst parts of them are closer to who they are than the best parts that they show you.
That's so good.
Whoo, like if I had known that, years ago.
Yeah. But, if you are a loving, kind, trusting, loyal person, what happens is that we believe that that's the way everybody is.
Yeah.
Till we don't, till we become, entered into this sort of trauma bond.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And honestly, I think that's part of the other struggle of leaving is the empathetic part of you that really wants to be able to love the good parts of them and doesn't want, and it almost feels, you almost feel guilty for not being able to accept the worst parts of them.
Yes. Yeah. And they play on that guilt and empathy. And I write this in my book, right? They're always victim signaling. So if you notice, they are always the perpetrator. I won't say always, but most often the perpetrator of abuse. And they're very pathological. But then they're blaming you for everything.
Oh, that's so true.
You made me do this. I wouldn't have done it if you wouldn't have acted like this. They turn it on us and they pretend to be the victim, which is another thing that confuses us, right?
Yeah.
And then we start to think because we're reflective and they're not, they have no reflective capacity and we do, where we're like, oh God, maybe it is me. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have responded like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they definitely guilt you for that. And they always play on their upbringing or something that's happened to them that's made them feel this way or act this way. And it's not really their fault. And you're the only person that loves me. I just, and that part, that'll get you too if you're an empathetic person.
Right. And usually, they prey on empathetic people.
Isn't it weird that there are people alive like that literally seek out the type of women, or we'll just say men in some scenarios, that they know that's going to be an easy person for me to control.
Yeah. And, at the core of this person, because I call them a pathological lover. So let's go there. So I say that they're much more than a narcissist because I believe they have dark tetrad traits of psychopathy, Machiavellianism, sadism. And the hard part is that somebody that's a dark tetrad person, like you're saying, they have bad malevolent intention.
Ooh.
And we just don't think like that. And so at the core of them is the antagonism and hostility and selfishness, right? And entitlement. So they go for the opposite.
Ooh.
They go for an agreeable, kind, loyal, pro-social person.
Oh, that's scary.
It is scary. And, I have a community, a survivor community, and my book is a course. So I have a course in there. And one of our topics this week was that coming to terms with the fact that there are evil people in the world.
Oh, man, that was honestly for me, sometimes still, but I'm so much better than I was. But that was one of the hardest things for me to really fully wrap my head around. I think especially in like the last few years, was just that I've always been the type of person that wants to see the good in people and believe the good in people, right? And believe that they have the potential to be better and heal and become, the greatest version of themselves. And it was really, really hard for me after getting hurt in some really brutal ways to accept that sometimes people are hurting you intentionally. Like it's hard to understand.
It's hard.
And
Hard. It's so
and
hard.
painful. It's painful to understand.
It is. And I say it very simply. This pathological lover will use, harm, exploit, and betray you to get their needs met for money, power, pleasure, and status.
Oof.
That's it. It's that simple.
Do you think there are like telltale signs that that's the kind of person someone is, like outside of even just dating them, but like just in everyday life? Like, do you think there are telltale signs of that kind of a person?
It can be hard because they're con men. So a lot of times they come off very charismatic. Not all of them, because there are ones that are more covert and more overt. The one I'm talking about right now is overt. Very grandiose, very charismatic, very, you can trust me. I got this. I'm going to protect you sort of persona. So that's why it's a mask, so that's the Romeo part. So it can be very hard to see it. But what I say is that if something feels too good to be true, it probably is.
Mm.
And if you meet this person and they say everybody in their lives is crazy but them, well, maybe it's because they're making everybody crazy.
Bingo!
Or if you're with them for a while and you notice that their words don't match their actions.
Yeah.
This was what happened with my ex, especially, as I demonstrated. When I tried to set a boundary over when I wanted to get married and when I wanted to have children, he went nuts.
Mm.
I hate boundaries.
Yeah, they do. They sure do.
And there's no collaboration or cooperation.
Yeah, exactly. It's their way, only their way. And they will guilt you, shame you, manipulate you, or literally just force you into their way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I always say, like, try to set a boundary, and just see what happens.
Yeah.
Because, the way I talk about love is it's, of course, quality of connection and trust and respect and just being tender with somebody. But there's also a second part is giving somebody the space to be who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's so true.
And in a trauma bond or in these toxic relationships, they don't give you the space to be who you are because they're constantly dominating you. And also, if somebody can't hear you, they can't love you.
Oof, that's good.
It's so simple, but it's true.
I mean, it is. It is so true. Terrifyingly true when you really think about it.
I mean, it's that simple. We make like all this stuff about love, but it's like those things are really there. They have to be able to give you the space to be different, to be your own individual person, allow you the space to have autonomy and hear you.
Yeah. Because yes, if they can't do that, they don't even see you as a person. You're a tool. You are literally just a tool.
Yeah, tool in the tool belt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whew. That's so good. So you wrote a book about it all.
Yeah. So I did finally leave, my ex. It was a few rough moments, but I had last straw moments, as I write about in my book. And then I moved to Los Angeles. I'm happily married now.
Oh,
23 years, I think.
How many?
23 years.
Oh, I want to talk about that before this episode's over. But keep going.
Yeah, and then I was living in Los Angeles and I was meditating a lot. And so it just came to me at 38. I was like, I'm going to go back to school to be a therapist.
Wow.
Because I believe that therapy had saved my life. Because when I first met my ex, I went right into therapy. Because I was like, I cannot handle him or any of this. And so I went back to school to be a therapist and then got my master's and got my doctorate simultaneously as the book and the movie are coming out. Okay. Oh. And I'm just like, okay, like, who's going to want to come to me for therapy? But the ironic thing that happened, everybody did. Because, not that I would, as a therapist, say, hey, do you know who I am? But they would Google it and find out. And they would say, wow, you went through this. So you can help me through it. And then what happens in my therapy room, there were all these smart, bright, beautiful women coming in, abused, betrayed, coerced. And I said, we have a problem. And so I went back to the research and wrote my book, Run Like Hell, which was published last year. because I just was like, what's happening?
Yeah.
It
What
was so scary.
it is, and it's so true though. It's people you would never expect in a million years. Like women that you would look at and be like, there's no way they would ever end up in a relationship
Right.
like that. There's no way they'd stay in a relationship like that. Not that woman. She's successful. She's driven. She's beautiful.
Right.
She's got it all going for her. And that definitely is just not the case. It can be anyone.
It can be anyone. So that's what I did is I wrote my book, Run Like Hell, Therapist Guide to Recognizing, Escaping, and Healing from Trauma Bonds. And that's the way the book is. First, it tells you what a trauma bond is, what we're talking about with the intermittent reinforcement. And usually there's a power imbalance. One person has the power and abuses it. So I talk about the pathological lover, the woman, the phases of a trauma bond. And then in the middle, I talk about the symptoms you get, why women leave or men leave, how to leave safely, and then the end is how to heal. Because you and I are living proof that we can heal.
Amen. Amen on that.
Yeah.
What are the symptoms? Talk about the symptoms.
Yeah, so the symptoms are really rough. This is hard. Well, the first one is loss of self. Everybody, 100% of people lose themselves.
Yeah.
100% of people have cognitive dissonance, which is the glue of the trauma bond, right? Which we talked about, which is the confusion that you feel due to the masks of Romeo and Dirty John. Is he good or is he bad? Am I crazy? Is he crazy? Is the relationship bad? So everybody has those symptoms. And then 50 to 70% have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a relational version of PTSD.
Yep.
So you can be depressed, you can be anxious, you can feel shame, you can feel hopelessness, you can have panic attacks, you can get physical symptoms. It's all the symptoms that you get flashbacks, you become hypervigilant. So it's all those symptoms of CPTSD.
Wow.
And so that's why you really need a well-trained therapist that understands, a trauma-informed therapist to help you through it.
Yeah, amen.
Because it's hard.
Do you think that CPTSD is something that people can truly, fully heal from?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen so many people. Yeah. Yeah, because you also get CPTSD if you have developmental trauma, right? So you could have CPTSD from your early family trauma, or you could have it from your adult trauma, like a trauma bond, or you could have it from both. And so somebody who had it both ways and gets really squeezed, their healing journey might be longer than someone who just had a trauma bond. But it's all total. You can heal. You can heal. If you need to take medicine, you take medicine.
Yeah.
You need to be resourced. Medicine, therapy, spirituality, exercise, food.
Yeah, amen to all of that.
All of that can really support a person in healing. Oh, I've seen hundreds of people heal.
Yeah, I love that. That's so encouraging. And I honestly, even just for the people that stay up to date on all my stuff, that is something that is so needed to hear sometimes. Sometimes you, especially when you're coming out of it and you're still in the grieving stage of it, it's sometimes you just need to hear that this isn't forever. Right. This is not forever.
Right. It isn't. And the hardest part that I find, so you have all those symptoms, but there's also an atypical trauma symptom that you get specific to a trauma bond, is that even though often this abuser, is bad for you, you long for them.
Yes. Yes.
You crave them still, right?
Yep.
And that is another very hard thing to maneuver past. And so what I help people with that is to say, okay, Romeo never existed. You're longing, you reminisce about, I call them positive flashbacks, right? You reminisce about the good times, the vacations, the love bombing. But that person wasn't real. It was a manipulation. So I really work with them on, you have to not see them as Romeo and Dirty John. You just have to see them as Dirty John is one pathological person. But that takes time and energy and effort. And this is why I started my community, because where you have to attack the trauma bond.
Yeah, you do.
With reading and meditations and journaling and right,
Yeah. I always tell people,
it's
women,
an addiction.
it is exactly. That's what I was going to say. I always tell women, and men, I guess, but when I talk to people, I always say, like, you have to understand that this isn't just because you're weak. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you, that you just can't seem to get over this person, that you are literally addicted to them. And it is beyond what you can possibly even imagine. It is psychological, it is chemical. It is, you are literally in withdrawal when you remove yourself from that situation.
Yes. It's a neurobiological trap.
Yes.
And it feels like that. And it's very scary and painful. But, that person has been your tormentor and your soother. Mm-hmm. And so when you're feeling all of the withdrawal and you're feeling afraid or you're really missing them, you don't have that soother to soothe you.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to soothe yourself, and it is possible, but I've seen that that's a really painful symptom that people deal with.
Yeah, I would say it's one of the hardest ones.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it comes with a lot of shame too.
Exactly, because you feel crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, what's wrong with me? Like, I know this person is horrific. I know they were horrific for me and to me. And yet I still feel like this obsessive need to still be attached to them.
Yes. And that's why no contact, if you can do it, if you don't have children and you're not married, and is so important. Because it's it's like you got to go to AA. I just actually wrote the 12 steps of mindful healing from a trauma bond. I have to send it to you.
Oh, please do. So good.
Because it's like a drug, right? It's, you can't just go have one more drink or take one more hit.
That's so funny. I was literally just on the phone with someone yesterday saying the same thing. And I'm sure experience is a great teacher for, you and I, but I said the same thing. I said, look, it's no contact isn't about proving a point. No contact isn't about revenge. It's not out of spite. You go no contact because it's the only way you'll actually heal from this. Like, it's the only way. It's for you.
That's right. That's right. It's for you. And it's so hard. But get an accountability partner, somebody who you can call, like you, who just is like, no, do not go back. Just to ride you through that 20-minute crave of longing, jonesing for them.
Exactly. Oh, man, it's so hard, but so good. So looking back at just like everything you said, you ended up eventually, you came out of it, you went to school, you got your degree, you now help other people, but you did say you met someone in the process and you remarried. And I want to go down that because that makes me happy and excited.
Yeah, I did. 2 years later, after my trauma bond, which was pretty soon, I met my current husband, and he had 3 children. I had 2 children. We were both in the garment business. We both like pizza and like to cook. And, we just fell in love, and we're still together, and we blended our families. And in fact, I'm going to see my daughter and her baby in 2 hours after this. And his daughter, even though she's like my daughter now, lives another 10 minutes away. And and listen, one of the first times we had a fight, and I told him how I felt, and he goes, oh yeah, I get that. And I was like, what? So that was a good sign. And he was very caretaking. I would wake up and he'd bring me coffee, and I was like, what's happening here? Because I had just done so much in my past relationship. I had done everything. And so, and not that it's been perfect. No relationship is perfect, but we're very happily married. I think we're together 25, married 23.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. And it's really nice, and it's drama-free, and it's boring.
In all the best ways.
Yeah, and you got to get used to that.
Yeah, seriously, you do. I honestly think that that's one of the hardest things is when you have either been in multiple, toxic relationships, even if they weren't necessarily abusive, but just up and down and back and forth, like getting in a stable relationship with a stable person who has healthy boundaries and is balanced.
Yeah.
That's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, and it's different. And so, and also, I think what's been great about our relationship is we've both been willing to work on ourselves and change for each other.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe there were certain things I needed to modify or he needed to modify, and we're both just always willing to do that. And it's fun because now we get to have grandkids, and that's the best part of life.
Oh, that's so exciting, though. I love that. How many grandkids do you guys have?
So we have 2 and then 1 on the way.
Oh, that's
It's
so
so
exciting.
It's so fun. It's so fun. And yeah, I get to do what I love, and I'm very blessed.
It's so inspiring. What you do is so, I mean, honestly, you are the perfect example of resilience. You are the perfect example of taking the bad and turning it into good. And I love that about you. You
Thanks.
truly, when I think about you and your story and what you've been through and how you overcame that, and now you help other women and you got your doctorate, that is a movie in itself. And I want that movie made.
I know women say that to me all the time. I guess as a 57-year-old woman, I'll just share that if you just keep showing up and you keep doing the work and you stay true to your integrity and you listen, life is hard and we got to grit it out. And, there are illness and my mother's died. There have been things that have happened, but I've surrendered into God. I've done all the work of therapy, and you surround yourself with people that love you, that can be there with you. Doesn't mean life isn't difficult.
Yeah.
It means that you can get through it. And what people don't talk about enough, and I want to share this, is that when you get older, it's so powerful to be in control of your own emotions.
Yes.
When I was younger, I was like a leaf in the wind.
100%. Being led to whoever, wherever. Yeah.
And now, I can feel my emotion come back to center, feel my emotion come back to center. So it's not that I'm not feeling, but there's a real beauty in gaining emotional intelligence.
Yeah, oh my gosh,
Right.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. And so don't be afraid to get older, peeps.
I know. I actually, honestly, I'm 38. I'll be 39 this year.
Yeah.
I feel better now, than ever.
Right.
This has actually been my favorite couple of years in my entire life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like it's going to get better.
And it does. Yeah. Today I went to my gym. I went and got lunch or breakfast, whatever. And I knew I was doing all my work today, and I'm going to see my grandson. I'm like, God, I'm just happy. Today's a good day.
Yeah, it is. Real quick, how old were you when you met your husband now?
33, 34.
Okay. Yeah. See, and I love that too, because so many women get wrapped up in that concept of I've got to be married by 30. I've got to have kids by 30. And then they come out of something toxic that they thought was going to be forever. And they're 30 plus and they feel oh, great. Now I'm too old. I'll never find someone. And
No. You can find somebody at any age, and they're out there and just want to find the right one.
That's exactly.
Cherish you and be tender with you, right?
Exactly. My favorite thing to say is it is better to be 60 and finding the love of your life than be 60 and 30 years into a relationship that was not right for you.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. And now, with your podcast and all of the information that's out there, it's possible.
Yeah, exactly.
It really is possible. So we're all very lucky.
Yeah, we are lucky. And what's beautiful is that having conversations like this, not only does it heal the people that have been through it, but it holds the abusers and the oppressors accountable a lot more than it used to.
That's right.
Which is important.
That's right. I mean, listen, my ex made his own book and own movie, so
yeah, we're just going to toss him out of this, but
It's so funny, But no, it does. It does. And these conversations are so important. So thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And tell people just one last time the name of your book and where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me at The Real Dr. Nadine on Instagram, or go to my website, drnade.com. And my book is called Run Like Hell, A Therapist's Guide to Recognizing, Escaping, and Healing from Trauma Bonds.
Amen.
So, if you go to my website, my community is really inexpensive. It's like $29 a month.
Ooh, that's incredible. Yes, I love that. And what's your community called? Does it have a name
It's
specifically?
called Sir Thriver. Sir Thriver, like you're Sir Thriving.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. Yes.
Just Google that, and I'm sure it'll come up. And my book, I have my book as a course in there, and it's just a community of women just helping each other heal. It's really,
I love it so much. That's awesome. I'm so proud of you, and like just so honored to like be a small little glimpse in your story. You've just done such amazing work, and it's truly an inspiration. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You too. Right back at you.